Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
Listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
When all is said and done at WrestleMania, all that will be left is the battered carcass of one Big Daddy Cool.
Joe Giammatteo.
Hello, Bartlett. What size t-shirt do you wear?
I'm a 3X, sir. Okay.
And Ryan, what's yours?
That'd be a double.
All right. Just making notes here because after listening to last week's episode, I've decided I'm going to give you guys a Tatanka t-shirt for Christmas.
All right.
Can't wait.
That's the gift that keeps on giving all year.
Since you both love him.
Well,
coming day and night.
Best wrestler ever.
Yep.
Since Ludwig Borga.
Oh.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw at a time. But first, a quick shout out to our new listeners in Nevada. It's about fucking time. Thank you for showing up. Glad to have you
here. It only
here.
took them over a year.
Yeah. We're slowly winnowing down the 50 states. Ryan, what states do we have left? Do you remember?
Alaska, North Dakota, which is going to be tough. There's like 3 people there.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. It took over 2 years.
Yes,
so,
over 2 years.
Come on, Alaska. Let's go.
And Iowa, I believe.
Iowa, get your shit together, Iowa. My goodness. All right. Thank you for that. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on March 25th, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. There is zero preamble to this episode as we immediately go into our first match of the night. Shawn Michaels defeats Leif Cassidy with Marty Jannetty by pinfall in 11 minutes and 14 seconds. Leif is already in the ring, waiting like the professional he is, while Shawn Michaels comes down to the ring over the course of about 37 minutes, give or take, carrying the click cam and videoing everybody that he possibly can. We get plenty of shots from that. And let's just take a quick break from Shawn's entrance to have the show entrance. But then back to Shawn Michaels' entrance. That's the more important thing here for about another 40 minutes. Shawn is going to get in the ring and get on the mic and introduce his teacher and mentor to the San Antonio audience. And Jose Lothario comes out to the third restart of the Heartbreak Kids music. That's not an exaggeration either. It replayed quite a few times.
It's not.
This whole time, Leif Cassidy has been smiling and applauding and just generally being weird there in the ring. You can catch glimpses of him in the background. And for those out there that don't remember or aren't quite in the know, Leif Cassidy is Al Snow with the long hair, but without the mustache or other facial hair.
So. And Shinobi and Avatar.
And Avatar.
Yeah, that's true. Jose comes out, gets on the mic, cuts a brief promo, and then gets the hell out of there so we can get things going. On commentary, Leif Cassidy is described by Vince as, quote, dorky. And Leif continues to act that way. It almost makes you wonder if that's kind of like the gimmick that was given to him. Go out there and be dorky, pal. Once the bell rings, the tie-up looks tight, and it lasts for all of 5 seconds before they break the hold. Leif continues to act dorky, and then, what do you know, Bret Hart comes out to watch. Bret is going to join Vince on commentary, and the Hitman dismisses Lawler. as Lawler figures out a bullshit reason to get out of there. And this was honestly one of my personal highlights of this match. The way that the Hitman just kind of raised his hand and flicked Lawler away like just shoo fly. Very arrogant, very in fitting with what Bret has been doing lately. The action in the ring continues then lightning fast. Leif Cassidy is no slouch as the arm drag takedowns look amazing. As the match progresses, we get to a spot where Leif Cassidy reverses Michaels into a really rough-looking sit-down powerbomb. I honestly can't tell if it was like an almost botch or if this was just worked so well that it looked devastating. And then here comes Marty Jannetty. Womp, womp, womp. For some reason, he wasn't out at the beginning of this match, being Leif's tag team partner, but he comes ambling out now, as Leif was trying to cinch up some kind of submission hold that just wasn't working out well. So far, Leif has been mostly in control here, and Leif has mostly looked alright. Shawn Michaels, of course, always looks great. But then we get a lightning quick series of pinfalls being traded back and forth, everyone looking good here. And Leif hits Shawn with an eye poke, very surprising there. Then maneuvers Shawn over close to the ropes to perform some kind of move that, again, I'm not sure was executed correctly. It's almost like a pile driver setup into a suplex, but then Shawn gets dumped halfway through the suplex onto the ropes. I don't know what the hell this was supposed to be, but it did not look good, especially when Shawn Michaels came down on the back of his neck. Cassidy then puts Michaels on the top turnbuckle, punches Michaels in the face for good measure, and then superplexes him. At this point in the match, it has been really hard for me to focus on what was going on because Bret Hart was going on in a monotone at commentary the entire time. And I'm not saying that what Bret was saying is bad, it's just, 11 minutes, damn near 11 minutes of Bret Hart talking into a mic is a little bit trying. I love Bret, but he's not very inflective in his words, I think we could say. Leif goes for another superplex, but this time gets reversed and pancaked by Michaels. This sets up the finish. A couple of atomic drops, Shawn looking visibly frustrated with the situation. And then Jannetty interferes, holding Shawn's tights, pinning Shawn into the corner there, which causes Bret to get up and into things. Bret goes over and throws Jannetty off of Michaels in time for Shawn to dodge the Bronco Buster from Cassidy. After Cassidy kind of just falls off of the corner post and stands back up again, it's time for some sweet chin music, the pin and the 3 count. After this, Michaels goes after Jannetty, but Bret then stops him for some fucking reason. And now this becomes words between Hart and Michaels instead of words between Michaels and Jannetty like it should have been. Bret Hart gets back on the mic with Vince, again at the end of this, while Michaels' entrance music plays on repeat 4 or 5 fucking times over the house PA system. And that's where I decided to end this segment. So, Joe, please get us going on our show opener.
To start the match here, well, before the match, I was hoping Jose Lothario would start stripping when he came out to Shawn's music.
Only fitting, yeah.
But he did not, so I hated this match right away because of that.
Ruined.
Not because of all of Leif Cassidy's botches, but because Jose did not strip. But, man, Al Snow, I'm not a fan of Al Snow. I know that, I respect the fact that he had some success later, but I wouldn't consider myself to be a fan of Al Snow. I never really cared much about him, but holy shit, he has had a lot of botches on Monday Night Raw with all these different characters. Like, it's really bad. So the end result of this was to have a little pull apart between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels before WrestleMania, which I like the idea of doing that. But Bartlett, you mentioned a couple things that happened during this. Bret comes out and joins Vince on commentary, which I don't think really had to happen. They maybe could have had it so that he just comes out to ringside, kind of like Shawn did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because you're right, he's not good on commentary right now. Like, it's just not, he doesn't seem comfortable doing it. So it just doesn't work very well. And Marty Jannetty coming out is, everything Marty Jannetty did is something that a heel would do. But I don't think Marty and Leif are heels. So, that's kind of, I guess that's kind of lazy to do that. if you're going to do that, maybe have Shawn wrestle a heel and not Leif Cassidy. But I don't know. Like I said, the end result was to have that little pull apart. We sort of have Bret acting like a subtle heel. And I kind of wonder if that's the build-up because, we know after WrestleMania, he's going to leave for a while. So I wonder if they're sort of like planting the seeds of possibly turning Bret heel when he comes back.
This match started with Michaels coming down with that camera, the click cam. I thought that was was funny in the very least, I guess. Followed by his music having to repeat 23 times, like you said, Bartlett. It was a pretty lengthy entrance here. And I thought it was a little bit odd the way they had Leif Cassidy it seemed like he was thrilled to be in a match with the most electrifying, the most resilient superstar. I mean, he just kept on clapping and smiling and like nodding his head. Yes. And I called him in my head a goober, and then 2 seconds later, Vince called him a dork. So I guess we were kind of on the same page. I guess that's what they were going for. The beginning of this match wasn't too bad. Shawn Michaels, he was carrying the match, and then Bret Hart came down with commentary pretty early on. Lawler said he was going to check the lights in his car, and he takes off. And I think that was a bit of a letdown because Bret Hart, commentary is not Bret Hart's strong suit. Let's just put it that way. Wrestling is his strong suit. Promos alone, he kind of struggles with sometimes. So trying to put him on commentary isn't going to work out that great. And it didn't here. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't great by any means. But Al Snow's botches here, they were still there, but they were less in your face than the other matches. So even though he had at least two big botches that I could remember in this match, I'd still have to argue that this is maybe his best match that we've seen so far.
Slim pickings.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I could only chalk this up to, even though we were corrected by a fan that Al Snow does indeed have a martial art background, I think that he appears to do a little bit better when he's not using the martial art gimmick. I don't know if his botches were just a little bit more glaring when he was trying to do backflips off the top rope and he's slipping on Ahmed Johnson's baby oil. That was just a little bit more glaring, where in this case, the moves were pulled off. You were looking at it saying, well, I'm glad I'm not Shawn Michaels there.
Yeah.
But I thought in all it was a fairly entertaining match. And Joe, you said it, this was all just a setup for the confrontation between Bret and Shawn Michaels I was scratching my head as to why Marty Jannetty was, playing the heel here. I thought that the new Rockers would be a babyface team, especially after that giant push that we gave Marty as a babyface. I thought they were supposed to be the good guys, but they were playing clear heel here. And you said maybe just a little bit lazy that they had this match booked and they said, okay, this is how we want it to end. So Marty, go out there and play heel for just a moment, even though we're going to try and run you guys as good guys here. So that was a little bit of a head scratcher, but I thought an okay way to start off Raw and just a way to try and continue this story between Bret and Shawn is really all this was about.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add. Decent enough match, nothing to scream about, obviously, but I think maybe now I've altered slightly from being an Al Snow fan to an Al Snow apologist right now, because I still love Al Snow. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. But yeah, you really hit the nail on the head with this. Not a very good showing so far for old Al in the WWF.
Best so far, though.
That's true. That's true.
And he's lucky to be alive after wrestling Ahmed Johnson a few weeks ago.
That's also true, yeah.
Now, the pacing of this show was a little bit strange because that pacing is both disjointed, as in it's, not very organized, or at least not as organized as these shows usually are. And it's also very fast because we're going to go straight into our next match. Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeats Aldo Montoya by pinfall in 4 minutes and 42 seconds. Aldo is out already in the ring waiting, and Hunter comes down with an unnamed young woman who was absolutely gorgeous, quite possibly the best looking valet he's had so far.
Yeah, I'd have to agree on that.
And it's a damn shame that we didn't get a name there. But did you know that Helmsley will face the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania? That's the big news here for this match.
Wait, who?
I don't have that in my notes. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Who's he facing? I missed it.
The Ultimate Warrior.
I just scared every animal in my house. The opening series in the match here was good from these two, but then things slow down significantly as Hunter more or less just works on Aldo using various moves slowly and methodically. The work here looked good, but the pace was just extremely laid back. It was almost a leisurely beating. Aldo's rally increases the pace a little bit, with Aldo attempting to get the crowd worked up and attempting to just kind of build that momentum. At the end, though, Helmsley is able to reverse Montoya's whip to the ropes into a pedigree, which, as we all know, is impossible to kick out of. That's foreshadowing, folks. And we get the end of this match. Ryan, please, what did you have on this match?
I have to say, I enjoyed how it started. We had Aldo holding the ropes down for this lady, this valet that came down to help with Hunter. And Aldo's holding the ropes down to help her out of the ring, to be a gentleman. And his eyes linger a little too long, and Hunter takes this advantage and just starts beating on Montoya from behind before the match starts. Just a great chicken shit heel move from Hunter there. You know, week in and week out, we see stuff from Hunter that is just, they're little things, but they're excellent, and they just help build your hatred for the guy. And there wasn't going to be much here. This was a fairly quick one. And Hunter starts it off stiff and hard. I mean, some of his moves at the beginning here look like they were really doing some damage to Montoya. And I also enjoyed the King, since the Ultimate Warrior is going to be facing Hunter Hearst Helmsley at WrestleMania. He said that he heard the Ultimate Warrior put on 200 pounds and that he's a cow now. I thought that was just an interesting tidbit that King decided to throw in there for whatever reason. But that was just breaking up this beating on Montoya, where he did take over for a little bit and he didn't look too bad. He lands a Hurricanrana, which wasn't too bad looking. And then after that, a pretty nice looking crossbody off the top rope. He gets a pretty close near fall at that moment, but of course it wasn't to be. Shortly after that, Hunter nails him with the pedigree, and as you stated, Bartlett, the pedigree, it's impossible to kick out of. So he gets the 1, 2, 3 here on Aldo. And, you know, this wasn't anything too fantastic, but I thought it was a solid match between a rising star in Hunter versus a expendable mid-carder in Aldo Montoya. I thought they both put in some pretty good work here. So overall, kind of entertaining.
Expendable, as though it's like this compliment that you're fucking giving the guy.
It is. It's higher. It's one notch higher than a jobber, an expendable mid-carder.
Yeah, I suppose.
Well, I'm going to give him no credit.
Well, good.
There's two things came to mind as soon as I saw this. I thought, why is Aldo Montoya on my TV screen? Number one. And two, why in the hell is he getting pyro? What in the fuck?
Yeah.
I guess if you're an expendable, what was it again? Expendable
mid-carder, yeah.
Maybe you get pyro, yeah.
They had some left over from Razor.
It comes out of his $100 paycheck for that night.
Half of that's going to old fucking Gary Sabaw.
Oh, yeah. I don't have much to say about the match that you guys haven't said already. I will say Helmsley, for me, is Ryan, you mentioned, he's working pretty stiff and hard here. Goldust would get excited hearing me say that. Like, he is punishing Aldo Montoya. And honestly, like the past few times we've seen him wrestle, he's almost already wrestling like the game,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost getting to the point where the gimmick, the Hunter Hearst Helmsley gimmick is getting a little bit more silly now, because this guy is just, he's playing this snobby gimmick, but then he's just punishing his opponents, just beating the hell out of them.
When he gets in there, he's a fucking bull.
Yeah. So curious to see, like, if you guys kind of feel that same way here moving forward now when we see more of his matches, because that's the feeling I had basically watching this match.
Yeah, one of the more interesting things that I've heard about Hunter in different shoot interviews from different people in the industry, JR and Pritchard and Cornette and those guys, is how back at this time, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, or Paul Levesque, however you want to think about it, was saddled with this gimmick of the blue blood. And while he had to stick with it, he was constantly doing little things to try to reinvent it to keep it as fresh as reasonably possible while sticking with the gimmick. So I tend to think of this as one of those things, even though he was kind of being coerced into being corny and being the hoity-toity blue blood, he was able to freshen it up a little bit by getting a little more sadistic in the ring and, going from having no valet to having the valet and little things like that he keeps on tacking on that are continually keeping him evolving. Even though it's baby steps, but it's still an evolution. And I think that's to your point, Joe. We're getting closer and closer to DX and then the game. And it's been very cool to watch. I gotta say, this rewatching of Hunter's career has given me a whole new appreciation for Triple H so far. I mean, I don't see it changing in the future, I don't think, but it's been just really illuminating to go back with, older eyes and see just how good he was so early on and how he's just continually working with it.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see, because I totally agree. But I think it's going to be interesting to see very soon when he is going to have to deal with a whole heap of shit coming down on him after the curtain call. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles that.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Quick question for anybody that wants to answer. Did I hear somebody at some point say something along the lines of Aldo Montoya was kind of like an unofficial member of the clique?
Yeah, he was kind of a part of it, yeah.
PJ Polacco. Okay.
Yeah, PJ, whatever his name is. Yeah, I don't know when he left the WWF, but yeah, he was like sometimes riding with them and stuff. So yeah, he kind of got labeled with that.
I just wondered if maybe that's one of the reasons why this match looked as good as it did. And
I'm sure, yeah.
Why they were comfortable doing this, going into WrestleMania. While, Hunter could have probably picked anybody to wrestle with here, and not picked, but, he just is visibly more comfortable with Aldo than he would have been with a lot of other people, I guess.
Tatanka, per se.
Yeah. Well,
he's gone though.
Yeah, goodbye.
He is gone, unfortunately. All right. Moving along, we're going to go over to the back lot with Goldust. Hoo boy. Goldust starts this off by quoting Pinocchio and then steps aside to reveal a mannequin. And, it's an ordinary generic mannequin. It looks nothing like Roddy Piper at all, but the mannequin is dressed like Roddy Piper with the kilt and the shirt and the, like a brown-haired wig. And as Goldust begins, Goldust is practically making out with this mannequin. And he cuts a typically creepy and sexually predatory promo. Once again, I enjoyed the living hell out of it, which was good on its own. I was enjoying this quite a lot as it was, but then I popped my ass off as Goldust proceeds to beat the shit out of this mannequin and just toss it around in this back lot. It was great. It didn't last long. This wasn't, like a 5-minute sequence or anything, but it was just so gratifying to see him take that final turn at the end into sadism and just beat on the mannequin after loving it up. Back at the arena, we're going to get Paul Bearer and the Undertaker making their way down to the ring. Paul Bearer looking gloriously ghoulish, as always. But before we get to that, we're going to take a quick aside to the WrestleMania store. It's commercial time. And this time at the WrestleMania store, it's that WrestleMania jacket. That's 3 monthly payments of $59.95 or $179 by check or money order. My goodness. Not worth that at all, I don't think. That's followed up with a video package of what I called Mankind's greatest hits. And that kind of, simplifies things, but it really was some of the best lines of all of the promos that we've been getting from Mankind up until this point. And what this amounted to was that the in-ring debut of Mankind is going to be on our next episode of Raw, that being the day after WrestleMania. So not our next episode, but the episode after that, we will be looking at the debut of Mankind.
But you're missing that the only person in the world that could ruin a Mankind video is Todd Pettingzoo, and he does the voiceover here.
Yeah, but I'm so excited for Mankind.
I am, but just the way he was talking during this, I'm sitting there trying to watch Mankind, and I hear Pettingzoo's stupid voice, and that's exactly what came to my mind. I was like, the only person in the world that could ruin this is doing the voiceover right now.
This twisted individual is gonna tear your day apart. Yeah, it didn't sound like that at all. He did try to put on a serious, tone to it, but it was still terrible. It was still Pettingzoo. Finally, we get back to the ring, and Vince begins the interview with Paul Bearer. Paul's going to take us back to cover the recent history between Diesel and The Undertaker, hitting all of the essential plot points to bring us up to the present. And then it's The Undertaker's turn, and it's a great one with lines like, "Creatures of the Night," "Battered Carcass," and, of course, "Diesel, rest in peace." Those are just some highlights. I encourage Undertaker fans to go back and watch this because this was delivered really well, I felt. That gets followed by a quick Slammy Awards commercial. But more importantly, that leads to footage of Doc Hendricks singing live with the G.E. Smith House Band. I couldn't tell what that song was. Was either of you guys able to catch it, recognize it?
I have no clue.
Doc's song?
Yeah.
It was the Bad Street USA song.
Okay.
That the Freebirds used to sing.
Okay. Well, it sounded terrible to me, personally.
Yeah.
With his rhinestone cowboy getup that he had on.
But I'm not here to judge. To each his own. The crowd seemed to maybe be enjoying it, hopefully. Next up after that is another training montage for Shawn Michaels. He's in the ring with some terrible-looking jobbers. But at the very least, Jim Ross's voiceover adds a great layer to this. That's followed by a cinematic black and white video package, putting over the Iron Man match. This was pretty good. This was about Bret Hart, and it was very tastefully done and did a great job of highlighting the upcoming match. Bret's training package, he gets into it and cuts another scathingly honest promo about his thoughts and feelings regarding Shawn Michaels. So, guys, this was a pretty large segment between matches. I know there's a lot to unpack here. Joe, what did you have on the Goldust promo, the newest training videos, and everything in between?
Well, starting with the Goldust piece, the Goldust vignette with him and Marlena a few weeks ago, with him playing the bagpipes. With that one, they were trying to make as many boner references as possible. And this one, they're trying to make as many references to anal sex as they possibly can. Talking about back lots.
Pretty much. I mean, it's just so fitting.
Yeah. Pretty much molesting that mannequin, like you said. They clearly edited the part where he was starting to go down on that mannequin. There was a little bit of a cut there. I agree, Bartlett. I popped my ass off when he started beating the shit out of it. And The Undertaker and Paul Bearer, this was really the longest promo that we've heard from The Undertaker in quite some time. And they probably already know at this point that they're going to have Paul Bearer turn on The Undertaker. So maybe they're kind of preparing for that, telling Taker, like, hey, we want you to cut some longer promos just so you can get used to that. And then the training video, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of the same stuff we've been seeing the past few weeks. So, nothing really too new there. But I thought it was interesting that Bret Hart compared this situation with him and Randy Savage.
Yeah.
A guy who they've been mocking for the last 12 weeks on every fucking episode of Raw. So
it makes you wonder if Bret Hart was taking an issue with that and specifically was like, fuck you guys. I'm going to mention our great match together because you're douchebaggery.
More of what I said earlier with Bret on commentary and his little confrontation with Shawn earlier in the show. It's kind of, they're kind of tickling our taints a little bit with this subtle heel turn, even though it is a while before he officially turns heel, but it's definitely, some subtle hints that it's happening.
Definitely. Starting with the Goldust backlot promo, I'm in agreement with you guys. I was laughing my ass off the moment I saw this mannequin with the wig and Piper shirt on, and the way Goldust is molesting this mannequin. Then to end it with him just ripping it apart, he throws it against this fucking pipe railing thing, and it was fantastic. It was perfect. Then we go into, as I already said when Bartlett was talking, we have Petting Zoo ruining a Mankind video. Then Paul Bearer and The Undertaker come down with the interview with Vince McMahon. And this was the beginning of it. Paul Bearer was just, I guess he was probably told by Vince McMahon, completely reiterate everything that happened between Undertaker and Diesel for the last month. It went on so long that Paul Bearer's wailing and of his voice, it was starting to break a little bit because he couldn't do it anymore.
Needed a drink of water.
Yeah, he needed at least a little breath to swallow. And that was a little bit odd. But Undertaker cut a really good promo on Diesel here. And Joe, you made a good point about maybe it's them trying to get him used to doing these longer promos because Paul's going to turn on him, or maybe they're trying to get the fans used to hearing him speak in longer promos since he's going to be alone. But I thought he did a really good job here. Then over to the training videos here with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Kind of the same thing that we've been seeing here for a few weeks now. Nothing new really, but still pretty solid. This was new material. It wasn't just regurgitated footage from the other few weeks that they've done this. This was new stuff, just kind of done in that same style. And I thought overall still pretty entertaining and trying to get us pumped up for this Iron Man match. And definitely laying the brickwork for a heel turn for Bret Hart at some point, I think. I agree with you, Joe, on that.
Yeah, it was, the whole Paul Bearer thing was really weird because you don't really hear him like this very often, maybe because he doesn't have to recount history very often, but it's almost like he was rattling off bullet points. It was like he had a teleprompter in front of him or something.
I don't blame it on him.
No, not at all.
But I think it might be, since we've started watching this, the worst string of talking I've seen out of Paul Bearer, solely because of what they were trying to make him do here, though.
Yeah, agreed there. All right. Well, as I said, that was a pretty big segment in the episode. So once we get through it, we're going to go now into our final match of the night. Ahmed Johnson defeats Owen Hart with Jim Cornette via disqualification in 5 minutes and 32 seconds. Owen Hart is out first, looking good, but then out comes Ahmed Johnson, and Ahmed has been just hosed down with baby oil. It looks like somebody had buckets and was just dumping it on him all over his body. In the first tie-up of this match into a wrist lock, Owen yells over, "I got him, Jim!" And I popped my ass off. Something little and stupid, but I loved it. It was entertaining in all of half a second. Then the brutality begins as Ahmed gets in a crooked slam. Hopefully it wasn't as painful as it looked. But wait, what's this? For some reason, Diana Hart-Smith is there in the audience. And that's the wife of the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, for our listeners that don't quite remember. And she did look gorgeous here. Ahmed is doing a lot of yelling and roaring in the ring during this match. He's also physically dominating Owen Hart. Then the Bulldog is out to watch the match. Ahmed is apparently sufficiently distracted that he goes and botches a move off of the top turnbuckle. It looked pretty shaky coming down to the mat. And then as the Bulldog distracts Ahmed, Owen is able to land an excellent spinning heel kick from behind to put Ahmed out of the ring. After a commercial break, we come back to a decent-looking spine buster. Happy to say Ahmed seems to have gotten that down pat for the most part. But as Ahmed is setting Owen up for the Pearl River Plunge, the Bulldog enters the ring to draw the DQ. But while the match is over at this point, the action will continue. Vader comes out, and they triple team Ahmed for a minute, while Cornette holds back the referee. Then, of course, Yokozuna comes running down to the ring. You usually don't see Yokozuna running, but in this case, it was the perfect camera angle for it, and it was fucking terrifying, seeing that large mass of humanity coming straight at you.
We should also point out that he beat Jake the Snake to the ring.
Yeah. Jake the Snake Roberts was strolling slowly.
Slithering.
Carrying his snake bag. Slithering. Yes, slithering. The good guys clear the ring. Yoko puts Vader out. Jake puts Owen out. And the Bulldog elects to leave on his own 2 feet. And that's where I'm going to call it for this segment. Our episode of Raw isn't over yet, but this match segment is. Ryan, what did you think of it?
I didn't think it started out too bad. That part with Owen screaming to Cornette, I got him, was, I agree, I had to mark that down because it's great. And then it's followed by Ahmed just grabbing him in this wrist lock and using his power to just throw Owen to the mat, and Owen sells it great. And it's followed by just a beating by Ahmed Johnson for a little while. It's just like power move after power move. That one move, I'm not sure what it's called. He did it a while ago. I think it's been a little over a month, where it looks like he just shot puts the person across the ring, but he did it to Owen, and it looked good again here. But I guess that was going to be the gist of this match, is just Ahmed is going to use his power to beat the shit out of Owen. And Owen was doing his best to make Ahmed look pretty good here. The only one spot was that botch, as you pointed out, Bartlett. Owen launched himself off the top rope, and Ahmed looked like he was supposed to catch him and right into like a swing into a slam, but it just, the timing was off and it was pretty sloppy. He did slam Owen, but it just, you could tell it didn't look good. But the spine buster was good, and that's thankful for Owen, because Double J would have loved a spine buster like that, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
It would have been greatly preferable to the one he got.
Yeah. And then right as the Pearl River Plunge starts, though, British Bulldog comes in, causes the disqualification. Then Vader comes down, Jake the Snake, and Yokozuna, like we've seen for a few weeks now. I suppose this is a decent way to set up a 3-way WrestleMania tag team match. I just think it would have been better off if we wouldn't have had this same ending interruption for a month straight now. I think this was a decent spot to set up a pay-per-view. They just have ruined their welcome with it.
More sloppy work from Ahmed Johnson. Ahmed Johnson is definitely a sports entertainer. He is not a wrestler.
No.
And that's probably why Vince likes him so much right now and is pushing him so much at the beginning of his run here. Unfortunately, the British Bulldog did not save Owen before that spine buster. He had to take it.
It was in the contract.
As far as all the shenanigans later, we talked about Jake Roberts and his slithering these past few weeks, and it's not very good. But here, like Vader here, particularly here for me, he looked like he was incredibly out of shape. Like it took him forever to get to the ring.
Yeah.
when he did, he just looked sluggish. Like, I don't know. He just didn't look good here. They're really trying to sell this match really hard. I kind of get why they're doing it. It's because this match is clearly like the least interesting match on the WrestleMania card. So I guess it kind of makes sense to, shove it down our throat a little bit because we're already excited about a few of the other stuff without even having to really hear about it. Like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, we know it's going to be a great match. We don't have to have a hot ending with them, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I guess it kind of makes sense.
What, we couldn't have a hot ending that addressed the tag team tournament?
No, we don't want to hear anything about that.
Which we got zero news about in this episode.
Right. What tag team tournament?
Yeah, we don't want to know anything about that.
Well, something that you do want to know about is what's coming up next, and I look forward to hearing opinions on this. As I said before, that match didn't close out our episode. What will is the Slammy Award-nominated music video that was inspired by the champion Bret Hart. And it is fucking horrible. The theme of the lyrics sounds like someone starting a fire and revving up passion. Lines like, dripping with desire, you start a fire in me, you are the air I breathe.
I really think they're following along with the Rocky theme here and trying to make it sound like one of those Rocky montage songs.
Hearts on Fire.
Yeah, Hearts on Fire is exactly what I was thinking of through this song.
This is all playing against a background of Bret Hart visuals, some in the ring, some at ringside, some from the set of Lonesome Dove. And what was probably the most disturbing part of this is that it just kept going, repeating the chorus way more often than it should have. Oh, and did I mention that there was a fucking cowbell keeping the time throughout the entire song? They didn't let up on it. It's kind of just maybe a nitpicky thing on my part, but that cowbell was relentless throughout this entire fucking segment. And that's it. That's what takes us out of our episode and into WrestleMania 12. Joe, please, I've been looking forward to hearing your audit of this song. Have at it.
Okay. Well, it's not a sappy song, so that's good. It's not like what we had with the Shawn Michaels musical tribute, because that, to me, is by far the worst musical thing that we've seen on Raw. The song itself is absolutely horrible. It's the kind of a song that you would hear at a shitty honky tonk in Nashville, like in 1996. It's just, it has like that sort of country rock type feel to it, but it's really bad.
Yeah.
But I will say, the video clips I thought were kind of cool. I did enjoy the video portion of it, just not the music portion. One other thing that I thought about this was, this definitely comes off as a thank you / goodbye send-off for Bret Hart. So it's almost like kind of foreshadowing the screw job a little bit, because it's like, I feel like Vince at this point would have been not that pissed off if Bret Hart just left for WCW right now. Because Diesel and Razor Ramon are both leaving. They've already given their notice. They're leaving. So already WCW is trying to steal his talent. And I feel like with all this shit and his obsession with Shawn Michaels, that he probably wouldn't even care if Bret were to go to WCW now. And we kind of get a piece of that with all that stuff that happened with Bret talking to Eric Bischoff, and then he ended up signing with Vince later. So it makes you wonder.
So at what point, though, was that where he signed that ridiculous contract with Vince for like 10 years or whatever? I would have thought that would have been right around right now.
No, I want to say it was maybe when he came back, like later in 96, maybe.
Okay. But even still, I mean, if that's what Vince was willing to do for him then, and then it takes him a little less than a year to realize, okay, I can't really pay this contract. Yeah. But he gave him an obscene deal to try and keep him, and then just kind of came to his senses financially down the road. But yeah, it's a little bit confusing.
Yeah, it's just definitely like, to me, it feels like it's really planting the seeds of this, all this shit that happened between Vince and Brett.
Yeah, I'm in agreement here with how terrible this music video was. It was one of the worst things we've seen in a while, but it was nowhere close to as bad as the "You Are the Wind Beneath My Wings" ripoff song for Shawn Michaels that we had a while back. That thing, it's going to go down as one of the worst things in wrestling I've ever seen. Although this was by no means a winner. I guess as far as music videos go on Raw, it's the best one we've seen.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to this other than it was, and Joe, you kind of said it earlier, it's like it was designed to be appealing to the most amount of people and the least amount of offensive as possible also. Like, the sound of this, it wasn't quite country, but almost. It wasn't quite blues, but almost. It wasn't quite rock and roll, but almost. I don't know. It was so generic.
Yeah, it doesn't come off as, like, if you hear Bret Hart's entrance music.
Yeah.
If you went for something like that, it would have been okay.
Yeah.
But they didn't go for that. They went for like this cheesy, like not quite country, not quite rock, just bad song.
Yeah.
Yeah, very bad.
It was evidence that Jim Johnston should maybe just stick with...
Well, you know what's funny? I don't think he had anything to do with this because I listened
wasn't him singing?
No, I don't think so, because I don't think he had anything to do with it, because I listened to a Bruce Pritchard show and he mentioned a couple other names when Conrad asked about it, and it wasn't Jim Johnston.
Well, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as I said, that's the end of our episode, so we're going to take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you go first?
Well, my highlight is no Billionaire Ted segment to end this, Yeah. I mean, that's enough said. I don't have anything else to say. Highlight no fucking Billionaire Ted. And my lowlight, I'm going with this lowlight because although as far as go-home shows go, this could have been better, but there was no real terrible spot of this Raw. It just was not a very good go-home.
Yeah.
Especially for WrestleMania. So my low light is Todd fucking Pettingzoo ruining the Mankind debut preview video.
Oh, man.
Fuck you, Todd.
Wow. Take it back. My highlight is also no Billionaire Ted skit. Yeah, well, this is the first time in what, like 10 weeks?
Oh,
that
it's been so long.
It's been so long and so bad, and hopefully this stupid fucking comedy match is the end of that, but we'll see what happens. My low light, I'm going to go with Al Snow and his continued botches in the ring. It's just really disappointing to see, knowing that he eventually became a great wrestler, but man, it's really just difficult to watch.
It's been a rough start for him, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to go 3 for 3 on highlights. No Billionaire Ted. Enough said. I think it's funny that we all came to that at the same,
Well, I mean, we were all like conditioned. We were waiting for that Billionaire Ted, and we were like, wait, what? I mean, yes, it was a terrible Bret Hart video, but my God, I'll watch that 3 more times before another Billionaire Ted segment.
Yeah. And my low light is actually going to be what you touched on earlier, Ryan. We were talking about it off air before we started recording, but I really, let me start it this way. There is not really a whole lot wrong with this episode of Raw. It wasn't the strongest, but it certainly wasn't a dud either. But in terms of a go-home show, it wasn't that great. But especially in terms of a go-home to WrestleMania show, I felt it really dropped the ball. If it were some other pay-per-view, like this would have been a decent go-home episode going into like an In Your House.
Yeah, but WrestleMania, I mean, that's the tentpole show for WWF.
It is the banner event of the entire promotion, and simply because of that fact, that's going to be the low light for me.
I was thinking the same thing, but then I got to thinking, well, maybe I'm asking a little bit too much because, we expect this hot ending to a go-home show, but which we didn't really get. I mean, we kind of got it, but not really. But they did have a confrontation between Bret and Shawn. Yeah. They had Undertaker cut a promo on Diesel. They had the 6-man tag stuff. They had Hunter Hearst Helmsley in a match to help prepare for us to see him at WrestleMania. So, I don't know. I mean, they still had matches that sort of relate to WrestleMania. So, I don't know. I don't consider it a terrible go-home, but definitely middle of the road at worst.
But I think that kind of does play to Bartlett's point, though. It's like, it was almost like they were going through with a marker, checking off, we got to do this, we got to do that, but none of it really stood out. Yeah. They hit all of the check marks, but none of it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, first of all, I agree with that. I think you're spot on with that because, they hit the check mark with Bret and Shawn with their pull apart. They hit the check mark with Goldust being out in the back lot with the mannequin, which was all fine as far as I'm concerned. We got to see Hunter. We got the promo from The Undertaker in the ring. All of that was perfectly fine. What pissed me off was the run-in for the 6-man tag. Joe, like you said earlier, we've seen this exact same fucking thing how many times now? But, and this is where I get into, some Monday morning quarterbacking, I guess. But, man, if we could have had some kind of a pull-apart between Savio Vega and Stone Cold Steve Austin instead of this thing that we've seen repeatedly already. And I'm not sure how they could have set that up. It could have been just a simple interview in the back or I don't know, whatever. But that probably, to me at least, would have been infinitely more preferable than yet another Jake the Snake slithering down the entryway. All right. Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around March 25th, 1996 for us?
Yeah, just a couple notes here. I guess with everybody gearing up for WrestleMania, there's not a lot of action going on backstage. But to prepare for WrestleMania, Bret Hart made an appearance on Regis and Kathy Lee, and Goldust appeared on the Conan O'Brien show.
Nice.
Was that the late night with Conan O'Brien?
That would have been
late,
I believe, right?
Late night with Conan O'Brien.
It was the one after Leno. So I guess, that was just the Tonight Show, right, Leno?
Yeah.
So I guess it would have been the Late Show then, yeah.
But whatever it's called, Goldust was in character, obviously. And they did a bit where they had Goldust coming on to Conan, hitting on him. So Conan called security, but then Goldust started hitting on the security guards. So that was the appearance. I don't know if that is available for our viewing pleasures anywhere, but I'm sure you could probably find it.
I vaguely remember it. I was a giant Conan fan. I used to watch Conan every night back in middle school, high school. I had a TV in my room, and I do vaguely remember when Goldust showed up on Conan.
I will definitely be searching for that for sure to see if that's out there anywhere. The only other note I have here is a guy that we have not seen in quite some time is Psycho Sid.
Yeah.
And he had neck surgery, and I can't remember if I reported that or read that at any other point, but he had neck surgery, but he plans on returning when he heals up from that neck surgery. And that is it this week, guys. So pretty quiet week.
All right. That's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at WrestleMania 12 with matches featuring Rowdy Roddy Piper the Ultimate Warrior, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.